Right. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen. How's everybody doing today? Glory be to God. Thank you, Addis, for that. One of my favorite quotes about sainthood is a saint is not somebody who never sinned, but it's somebody who held on to God in the midst of their sin. Right? And so this call to holiness is for everybody. We look at saints as something that's unachievable, and sure, it may seem that way, but they struggled for their sainthood, and in the same way, we ought to struggle for our holiness as well. With that being said, we'll get started for today. We have fellow notes. Oops. Having a lot of technical difficulties today. 1 second, bear with us. Alrighty. Okay, so real quick before we get started, we have fellow notes, so this is like a way for you to follow along with the sermon that we're talking about today. So if you guys want to scan this just so you can see my references and see kind of what I'm saying, go ahead and scan this. All right, very good. So I got a question for you guys. Who here has been keeping up with this series from the first week? Meaning you haven't missed a single week. Up high. Okay, so we got a few. Raise your hand if this is your first time. No shame, no guilt. This is your first time tuning in. Great, perfect. So for you to really appreciate this series, because the whole reason why we do these lessons isn't necessarily for you or me or for any of us to hear something good and go home, right? Unless we do something with this information to apply it, it really wasn't fruitful in the way God intended, right? Christ, whenever he was going to preach or teach, he would always he gave the analogy of a farmer, like a sower. He went to sow seeds. He went to throw seeds. And the goal of this farmer is for the seed that he throws to land on some good soil, that soil will produce fruit. That soil is our heart, okay? That seed is the word of God. And so if this seed, this message that I'm talking about the last 4 weeks isn't producing fruit, meaning it's not changing your perspective on relationships, it's not changing your perspective on marriage, it's not changing your perspective on dating, we've kind of missed the mark there. And so I really, really urge you to kind of go back and look at the previous weeks so you can understand exactly how you should be going about dating and relationships, right? Dating, again, it's like a cool topic that everybody likes to talk about. It's fun and all these things, but it's a very Christian and spiritual thing. It's actually not a game. It's actually not supposed to be this fun thing that we do and talk about and we gossip about. It's something that's actually essential to how we're saved, because it's a mechanism in which we go to holy matrimony, which is a direct sacrament from God, which is an experience of God, right? So it's very much linked to how you're saved. And so I really urge you guys to look back and listen to the sermon and apply it to yourself. Don't listen to the sermon and be like, this person needs to hear this, or this applies to this person. Look at it and critically and apply it to yourself, right? And so really quick to recap the previous stages, the first part of the series, we set the stage with holy matrimony. Holy matrimony is a sacrament, like I mentioned, and a sacrament is a mechanism in which you experience the presence of God. All of us, we should be running, sprinting to experience the presence of God, which is why we always preach about confession, right? Because we experience the forgiveness of God. We preach about communion because you experience the union with God. Same thing with holy matrimony. It's a sacrament in which we should be striving towards. If you haven't confessed yet, that's fine. Hopefully you're striving to it. If you haven't taken communion yet, that's fine. Hopefully you're striving for it. But in that same manner, matrimony has to be looked at in the same way. You have to be striving for it. And so that means it matters how you operate while you're single. You should be preparing to be a godly man, a godly woman. In a relationship, you should be practicing sacrifice. You should be practicing submission, all these kinds of things, which we'll talk about today and what that looks like. But it's something we should be preparing for. But the world has told us, put it to the side, wait till you're successful, wait till you have a house, wait till you have money. But this is of the world, this is not of God. And look at week 1 for more details for that. Second week, we talked about navigating singleness. How should I operate while I'm single, right? And we talked about many different things. The first one is have a relationship with God. And again, I really urge you to look at this series because I promise you what you're thinking about when you're thinking a relationship with God might not be the same thing God is thinking. Our version of a relationship with God is very superficial. What is the go-to answer? Pray, read my Bible, maybe throw a fast, go to church. That's surface level. To really look at what it means to have a relationship with God, look at the week 2 series or a sermon. Last week we talked about the talking stage. The talking stage. How to navigate the talking stage. Do you guys remember how long I said a talking stage should be? According to abel.com? How many? About 1 to 3 months for the talking stage. Why? The talking stage is a time of assessment. It's a time of assessment. You are assessing, does this person have values that match with mine? Does this person reflect Christ? Does this person show a potential? Dating is the assessment. Dating is the confirmation. Talking is the assessment. So you talk for 1 to 3 months to assess, okay, is this person for me? Dating is to confirm if your assessment was true. For example, if you go to UW, you go through a quarter system, right? If did everybody go through a quarter system or semester system? Do we have quarter systems here? Most people, I would say, right? They expect you in 3 months to have a mastery over that topic in a quarter, correct? So 3 months with intentional conversation with the person, you should know if this person is somebody you want to date. But if you spend the talking stage with just fooling around, not intentional conversation, just butterflies and emotions, then that's when it gets tricky. But if you are approaching the talking stage with the seriousness that it requires, you should know enough about that person. So the talking stage is a period of assessment. The dating stage is a period of confirmation. Now, a couple things I want to talk about the talking stage. Even though that was last week, I just wanted to mention this because I didn't get a chance to mention it last time. There's a couple misconceptions about the talking stage. There's a couple things that we see people do. For example, talking to multiple people at once. Talking to multiple people at once. Why? I got to keep options open. Technically, I'm single. There's nothing wrong with it. So I'm going to talk to multiple people at once. That's also a misunderstanding. When we go back to the origin of the creation of Adam and Eve, our hearts, our design is meant to be with one person. Our hearts are meant to be given to one person. It's a sign of what we talked about criteria to look for. Maturity is one of them, right? Emotional maturity. A sign of emotional, or not even emotional, just immaturity in general is talking to multiple people at once. It shows that you're divided. It shows you're not sure of who you are and how intentional you want to be and the things that you want and the things that's important for you. That's one thing that's something that we got to correct. Another thing is this kind of, I think a lot of people are guilty of this. Okay, she texted me back after an hour. I'm going to wait 2 hours. Oh, she waited 3 hours. She's getting a response next day. We're all guilty of this, right? We've all been there. But again, this stage should be met with intentionality. You should know what you want. Communicate your boundaries. Communicate if you're at work. Communicate if you're unable to text much. All these things. But these games that we're playing, that's not somebody who's prepared for marriage. Somebody who's going with a mindset of ready for marriage. Right? Because what is this a root sign of? Like playing hard to get and all these things? If we want to be honest, if we want to be blunt, and I'm going to say something that might hurt, playing these games of hard to get, texting back late, all these things, it's a sign of, and we coined this term in our generation, but manipulation. Because you're trying to strip control away from that person and give yourself control. Oh, they took an hour to respond, so I'm going to take 3 hours so I feel like I'm more in control. That's the psychology behind it. I know we laugh about it and we joke about it, but this is very serious business. Anytime we are involved in dealing with somebody else's hearts, it's very serious, starting from the talking stage. If you deem that this person is not for you, you have to say, you're not for me. Obviously not in that way, but you communicate it. You don't ghost the person. We love ghosting, right? Well, okay, I don't like this person anymore, therefore I'm just going to respond less and less and less, and hopefully they get the message. Our God, He's intentional, He's direct, He's not divided, His yeses are yes and His noes are noes, and ours should be the same way. In fact, we see this. It's okay, let's leave the slides, unless we can get it to it. Please pay attention. Matthew 5:37. But let your yes be yes and your no be no. For whatever is more than these is from the evil one. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. For whatever is more than these is from the evil one. Be direct, be clear. Everything else that's beyond yes, beyond no is from the evil one. If you're not interested in somebody, you say that. If it's not going to work, you say that. That's Christ-like. That's from God. What's from the evil one? Being unclear, being undefined. Be clear with your intentions, your bandwidths, all these kind of things. So like I said, the talking stage is for what? For what? Assessment. So what's dating for? Confirmation. Was my assessment of this person clear? Was my assessment of this person true, correct? What's the purpose of dating? What is the purpose of dating? Is the purpose of dating to have just to spend some pastime, like date around for fun? I mean, we see that a lot, but that's not the purpose. In the Orthodox context, what's the purpose of dating? Marriage. To figure out if this person is suitable for marriage. That's what it is. It's nothing else. Like I said, we are all created to have our hearts for one person and one person only. Dating is for marriage. Before dating, you in the talking stage need to be on the same page as this person. If we are going to be official, if we are going to be dating, what is the end goal here? What is the path to that end goal? It can't just be, I like you, you like me, we'll figure it out. That's how you get hurt. That's how the other person gets hurt. Because if you're in your mind is thinking about marriage and the other person, that's not even in their mind at all. After 2 years, 3 years, now what do? You're in this state of anxiety, confusion. It's been 2 years, 3 years, like, are we gonna, like, what's gonna happen? And the other person's like, I don't know, like, we never thought about. You need to define this clearly before you get into that stage. That's why we see so many heartbreaks, because we have so much ambiguity. No, nothing's concrete, and we go into the relationship based off of emotions and feelings. Might be better just to go from there. Dating to marry protects your heart from unnecessary damage. Dating to marry protects your heart from unnecessary damage. Let me explain. If you date somebody casually just for the fun of it, you get attached to them, correct? You get just as vulnerable as somebody who's dating to marry, correct? Both people are vulnerable. But the person who's in a relationship casually and not with marriage in their mind, they have no obligation to that person. I can leave you if I feel like it, because marriage is not even on the cards for me. I'm not thinking about it. Versus when you're dating to marry and you both agree on it, you think twice. You don't just wake up one day and say, I'm not feeling it, I'm gonna leave her. No, because you're dating to marry. Why? Because you're trying to approach the sacrament that brings you closer to God. And so now you're willing to be more patient. You're willing to sacrifice more. You're willing to look at your own flaws. But someone who's not dating to marry, what do I have to lose? I don't like you anymore. I have nothing like above me that I'm worried about. I'm not looking at marriage. And so it leads a lot of people to heartbreak. When you're dating to marry, it goes, instead of me, it's we. And we'll talk about the differences between dating and marriage and what commitment looks like, because that's a whole other thing. We'll look at that in a second. But if you're dating to marry, there's a set goal. It's not me, it's we. There's a clear goal. But dating for the moment and just for the fun of it, It leads to so much confusion, so much anxiety, so much uncertainty, so much worry. And dating to marry is beautiful because you show that you honor the other person. The other person is more than just an experience. The other person is more than just how you spend your free time. It shows you honor the person, you honor their time, you honor their heart. And so you're willing to give them everything you have to marry. Of course, it might not work. But dating to marry, it's a pure intention. It's a godly intention. Everything else, it's selfish. It's self-centered. It's all about what can that person do for me. And if I don't feel it anymore, I'm done. Which is the wrong mindset. Dating for the moment leads to confusion. It leads to confusion. Dating to marry also, if you're very critical of yourself or you look inwards a lot and you're very self-aware, it'll confirm if you're ready to be a husband, if you're ready to be a wife. It'll confirm those. Because you will see the kind of sacrifice that dating might require. You will see the types of things that you might have to do in dating that would be required out of a marriage. And so you're able to assess, can I commit to doing this? Or do I need to go back to the single phase and work on my relationship with God? Christ-centered dating, it's not confusing. It's not confusing. That's not to say in your relationship there won't be confusion. There might be. But there won't be any confusion in regards to intention, which is the dangerous part. There's a couple other things that we got to think about too. In the dating stage, which is what we're talking about right now, you got to consider a lot of different things. Of course, the most important thing is having fun with the person, all these things, but then you need to have serious conversations. What would life married look like? How do you plan on raising your kids? Private school, public school? How do you plan on, maybe disciplining your kids? Because that's a huge thing, right? Like some people, they might believe in a different type of approach than you, and that could cause a real conflict. In the dating stage, you have to have these kind of questions asked and answered. There's a couple of reasons, and we're going to talk about that in a second, of why the dating phase doesn't work out. And I'm going to tell you right now, the reason why it doesn't work out is almost never because of the issue. It's almost always because of a lack of communication, a lack of understanding. It's never really any isolated issue. Of course, there's occasions of other things that, you know what I'm talking about. But for the most part, it's usually because you don't understand the person's communication skills. You don't understand how the person wants to be loved. You don't understand these kind of things. And then it makes it a bigger issue than what it actually is. What do you guys think? It's gained a lot of popularity recently, at least for over the last couple years. I don't know. I've been in this stage in a while now. Love languages. Some people like it. Some people hate it. What do you guys think about it? Raise your hand if you think it's a good metric to use. Love languages. Raise your hand if it's not. Raise your hand if you don't even know what it is. Yeah, we got a couple of people. So I'll talk about love languages in a second, but what I will say is we can go to this slide. Love languages measure how you feel. Sacrifice proves how you're loved. Love languages measure how you feel. Sacrifice proves how you are loved. So for those who don't know what a love language is, people experience love in different ways. For example, if I grew up in a household in which my parents showered me with gifts, chances are when I get in a relationship, the way I experience love is through gifts. But if a person grows up in a household in which they experience love through words, like you're amazing, you're great, keep doing this, whatever, that's probably how they're going to experience love. And so what's the problem here? When somebody who's experienced love through gifts gets together with a person who's experienced love through words, they're just going to give the other person gifts, and the other person will be like, you don't love me, like, where are the words? Love languages, the kind of issue with it is self-centered. It's me. It's all about me. However, it's something you should keep in your mind because it could lead to some serious arguments if it's not in the back of your mind, how this person receives love. But that's just very surface level. True love is sacrificial. It's not about love language. It's not about insisting your own way. What does St. Paul say? Love does not seek its own. But I get it. We're not there yet. So we revert to things like love languages. And that's okay. It's good to know, and it's good to keep in your mind. But there's more depth required. It's a love that lays his life down. A love that submits. That's the love Christ, the standard he sets for us. There's a true story. I'm going to expose myself. I asked my wife for permission. She said it's okay. So this is our first anniversary of dating. Okay, first anniversary of dating. She used to live in DC, and so whenever she would visit in Seattle, I would try to do something extravagant because I really wanted her to move here, and I didn't want to move to DC. So every week we're going to Gasworks, look at the water, wow, you should come here. That's the go-to. And so she comes to Seattle, and I planned this a scavenger hunt. Okay, so you go through a website and you sign up for a scavenger hunt, and it tells you to go to different places to pick up stuff for a picnic. So you go to one place, and then you get flowers. Then you go to the next place, and then you get a blanket. And then from the next place, you get some cheese and crackers or whatever, right? We're trying to do a picnic. And so I'm taking her around, and she doesn't know what's happening. She's like, well, okay, we got flowers, so thank you. Why do we get cheese? What is the cheese for? What's happening here? But we collected all of this and put it in a basket, right? And she's like, oh, it's a picnic. And guess where I took her? Gasworks. So we go to Gasworks, and I set the picnic down and everything. I'm look at the water. This is amazing, right? And then she's like, yeah, this is great. I'm like, the water, the picnic? And she's like, I just think it's funny how, and if that sentence starts like that, it's not good. And I'm like, what? And she's like, you haven't told me you loved me. And I'm like, what, the flower, the water, what do you mean? Of course. She's like, yeah, but you haven't told me that. I think I heard her down there. And we ended up arguing about it because in my mind, I'm showing this tremendous act of love. That's kind of how I do things. In her mind, love is saying you love her, saying these things. And so for her, she thought, this is great. I do appreciate it. But I don't feel it in the way you're intending it to be. And I had to understand that. And so I worked on it, and we're married now, and it ended up working. And so that's a scenario in which, the love language, it can matter. But then you graduate from that, and you realize, hey, it's not about me and what I'm seeking. It's about a sacrifice. It's about a compromise. The next thing I'm going to talk about, and this is the main reason people break up. The main reason people break up, and I am honestly probably one of the last people to be talking about it, but I'm going to talk about it. Main reason people break up is for an inability to resolve conflict. Struggling with conflict resolution. That's why people break up the most. I'm going to start by saying conflict is a good thing. That's something we got to just put in our heads. Get out of your mind that conflict should not be there. A lot of people think if this is from God, it should be easy. Name me one thing from God through the scriptures, through the lives of the saints, that they got from God that was through easiness. Everything from God, and we're seeking a sacrament, correct? Which is from God. Everything requires a struggle. Conflict is a natural cause of God's design. You have to understand that. Disney is what's telling you it should be easy, it shouldn't be in conflict. Now, there's a healthy amount of conflict and there's an unhealthy amount of conflict. We'll talk about that. But like I said in the first week, God created us differently on purpose. Because if we're dating somebody, right, we're wired differently for the purpose of them to identify the flaws that we wouldn't be able to identify in ourselves. That's one of the biggest reasons of marriage. Because we don't listen to God very well. So who does God use? People. The people closest to you. Who's the person he puts in your life to correct you and show you the flaws in your life? Your wife and your husband. But if they're not unable to point out flaws or show anything that you might be struggling with, who's going to refine you? That means you're assuming you're perfect. And we know none of us are perfect. And so in a relationship, you should seek somebody in which they do challenge you, in which you're able to see some flaws. That's very important, because that's the person who God will use. Imagine, if you don't listen to your husband or your wife or your significant other, when they're pointing out flaws to you, who else are you going to listen to? The person who you've given your heart to, you don't want to listen to them when they're pointing out your stuff. Who else would you listen to then? That is the person who God uses to speak to you. Again, not always. There may be some cases in which that might not be the case, but most of the time, that's the person which God uses to speak to you, to teach you patience, to teach you humility, to teach you understanding, to teach you sacrifice. Next slide. The biggest lie is if it's the right person, it will be easy. It's not true, for the reasons that I just said. The truth is, we can go to the next slide. You are two imperfect people trying to practice selfless love. None of us are perfect. We understand that. Nobody here would say they're perfect. So that means you're imperfect. So if two imperfect people get together, there has to be something that might come out of it, issues-wise. But when both of you are practicing selfless love, that's what makes it worth it. That's where you experience the transformation from God. For example, if you look at it, imagine like two stones, right? Two stones at the beach. And you have two stones, and these stones are really smooth. You with me? They're really smooth. There's no sharp edges, nothing. If you know anything about geography and erosion, I don't know much. You know that they became smooth through a process, correct? They became smooth through a process. Thousands of years ago or whatever, these rocks probably had rough edges. They probably had, sharp corners. But over time, through this process of maybe colliding with each other, through the water kind of sweeping them around, they developed smoothness. They became smoother and smoother and smoother, and it becomes a rock that you see. That's the same thing with God's intent for man and woman. We get together, and throughout our lives, we're these rough pieces of rock. Many issues, many defects. But over time, with colliding with one another, it starts to break away at these rough edges. It starts to smoothen out. But for that process to happen, the rocks had to have been in the water. What's the water for us? It's the church. It's the church. Too many times, we don't want to fix these rough edges, so we leave a relationship, we leave the church or whatever. But when we're confined, when we're crashing, when we're going at each other, it's going to refine you. It's going to purify you. If you're in the church, what do I mean by in the church? Meaning you both are seeking God. You both are seeking selfless love. You both have a community around you. You have a confessional father. You have mentors. You're willing to pray about your relationship. You're willing to fast about your relationship. You're willing to be selfless. You will become smooth like those rocks. That's the intention of God. Now, we talked about love languages briefly. People in OTYG, they're going to know what I'm about to bring up because we used to talk about it a lot. Do you guys know what temperaments are? You guys even know what a temperament is? Okay? So temperament is a little different than personality. Okay? That the personality, it can be kind of shaped over time through environment and all these things. But temperament is more of like, at your core, who am I? What kind of person am I? And this is very important in understanding conflict resolution. It's very important. Temperaments are a tool for empathy. If you understand your partner's temperament, you will be more willing to have empathy for them, or see their perspective, or understand their perspective. Temperaments, although they're not an excuse for bad behavior. You can't just say, I'm this temperament and you gotta, no. Selfless love. Love does not seek its own. But in a conflict, it's good to understand each other's temperament because you can be empathetic to one another. Let me give you an example. There's a temperament in which the person at their core is assertive. They want to get things done. They're the first person to speak. They're the leader in the group project. We know people like that, right? That's who they are. And then there's a temperament in somebody who's an avoider. They like to avoid conflict. They don't want to speak. If something bothers them, they're not going to speak about it. They're just going to stay back. They're going to retreat. That's probably half of the room here, right? Half of us may be the temperament that's going to stand up and get things done. Some of us might be the one that stays back and doesn't speak their mind. Why is it important to understand this? Because when these people get together, and let's say they start dating, the person who's assertive will just take advantage of the person that's passive. And eventually the person that's passive is going to shut down. But when you understand each other's temperaments, you realize when you're dominating the conversation. You realize when the other person's shutting down, when you're not giving them a space to speak. So what do you learn as the person that's assertive? You learn to step back and be patient. And the person that's passive, they learn, okay, this is how this person is. I need to maybe speak up a little bit more and say, hey, you're not hearing me right now. Calm down a little bit. Right? There's a temperament in which somebody is an overthinker. They calculate everything. They're not spontaneous. They want everything calculated to the T. And there's a temperament in which somebody's very spontaneous. They make a lot of friends. They like socializing. Now imagine they get together. The person who's calculated and overthinks things and wants things precise dates a spontaneous person. It can be issues if they don't understand one another. The person that's an overthinker needs to learn flexibility in the situation. The person that's spontaneous needs to learn how to, hey, let me tone it back a little bit and let me communicate before I act. That's the benefit of understanding temperaments. You're able to understand people's tendencies rather than say they're crazy. They're just like in charge of everything. They're just super loud. You say, that's how they are. All in all, my point that I'm trying to make is we need to reframe our mind about fighting and conflict. You can go to the next slide. The source of your greatest conflict can actually be the source of your greatest connection. The story of your greatest conflict can be the source of your greatest connection. Like I said, repeated conflicts is rarely about the issue. It's rarely about the issue. It's more of you don't have empathy for the person. You don't understand where they're coming from. You don't understand how they want to be loved. These are kind of the things that are the issue. It's not you don't text back fast. That's not really it. There's something much deeper. It's never the issue at its surface level. There's a story that I heard over there, I was listening to the podcast. And this girl and her boyfriend, she gets really upset when he doesn't plan dates. She really wants him to plan dates and he just never does it. She wants him to plan it. And anytime Friday is their date night, anytime she comes home, she's hoping for there's something planned. He's I could check reservations and see if they have something right now. And that just drives her crazy. And so one day, she comes back, she's hoping there's a date planned. There's nothing planned, and she snaps. What's wrong with you? Do you not care about me? And he's what do you mean? Of course I care about you. And she's why don't you plan a date then? And he's wait, why do you care so much about me planning it? We could just do it right away. Why do you care so much about me planning it? And then she expresses herself. And she says, you don't understand. When you plan a date, I feel secure. I feel like you care. I feel like you're paying attention. And then he's but you don't understand. When I'm at work all day, every day, focused on deadlines, this reminds me of a deadline. And I want to dissociate from that. That's why I don't plan it. And now, the issue is not you don't plan dates. The issue is, I didn't know where you were coming from. And now you have a conversation. It's very rarely this surface level issue that you're looking at. It's always something deeper behind it. So now I want to talk about the bad types of conflict. Okay? There's two types of conflict. There's a conflict that is solvable, and there's a conflict that is perpetual. So you have solvable fights and perpetual fights. If you have a perpetual fight, meaning a fights that happen frequently, and these fights are severe, and they happen constantly, that's a red flag. It shows there is some deeply rooted difference between you and that person. There's a difference in your values. There's a difference in your personality, in your priorities. There's something different about your beliefs and your outlook on life, if that's where you are. A solvable fight is a fight that can be solved through compromise. So anytime you're in a fight, look at it from the third person's perspective. If I was to compromise right now, would this work out? Because a lot of the time we're just stubborn. We don't want to compromise. Most fights can be solved through compromise. But the fights in which are frequent and severe, this is the red flag. I don't know if you guys can see this. So you have a chart. I made this myself. You have a chart. Go back. On the bottom axis, you have frequency of conflict. On the y-axis, you have severity of conflict. The red flag is when the conflict is frequent and severe. If you're arguing all the time and it's this explosive argument in which you're crying and you're storming out and all these things, that's a red flag. A yellow flag is zero conflict. You don't want to be there either. It shows two people who are probably highly avoidant. Like I said, you're not perfect and neither is your partner. So how is it that you don't have conflicts? Chances are both of you guys just don't like conflict. You're avoidant. The issue with that is over time, it's going to spill over. Like I said, we're imperfect. We're not, if for it to not spill over, is to assume you're the most patient person in the world. It's going to spill over eventually. Somebody's going to have had enough. And then it's going to be this huge conflict in which you don't know how to handle because you've avoided conflict your whole life. The middle ground, the perfect one, is an infrequent conflict with low severity. Both people are respectful. Both people are understanding. Both people are willing to solve the issue at hand. I'm going to give you some communication tips. I'm going to kind of speed it up a little bit. Next slide. Listen to understand, not to respond. You'll be with an argument with somebody, and you will be waiting just for them to slip up. Let's be honest. You're listening, you're like, I'm just waiting for them to say one thing, and the moment they say the one thing, you hop on them. And 90% of what they said could have been valid. But because you're focused on winning an argument, you're waiting for that 1% that they may have messed up on so you can just attack them for it. That's a toxic strategy. Listen to understand, not to respond. Understand where they're coming from. Remember the analogy I gave you. The people that fought because the guy doesn't plan dates. Rather than focusing on making that other person understand, hey, you're a bad person for not planning dates, they ask deeper questions. Oh, it's because you feel more pressure when you have to plan dates because of your work life. Okay, I get it now. That's people that are trying to listen to understand, not to respond. Check yourself. Whenever you're in these types of conflict. Another communication tip, no storming out. No storming out. I get it. When you get to this point, it's because you've reached your boiling point as a person. But say to the other person, hey, I am overwhelmed right now. I need to walk away. Because when you storm out, what do you make that other person feel? Abandonment. They're confused. They don't know why you ran out. They feel abandoned. And then they feel this guilty pressure. I got to go chase this person. And that's not a good cycle to be. That's not good communication. If you need your space, you say, hey, clearly, I need some space right now. Honestly, to tell you the truth, most conflicts should be able to be solved in 10 to 20 minutes. If it goes past 30 minutes, you're not going to solve it. You guys got to take some time to talk about it. Take some time to calm down and then reconvene. I'll talk about that in a second. Next one, no yelling, shouting, name calling. This is at any stage, this is unacceptable. Forget dating or not dating. I gave you guys this analogy before. If God is your partner's father, or God is your boyfriend's father, or God is your girlfriend's father, that makes that person their son or daughter. So you need to look at that person as God's son or God's daughter. How are you going to curse God's son or God's daughter? Their name is child of God. How are you going to call them out of their name? Who does that become disrespect to? Not that person, but to God. That becomes disrespect to God. You are calling God's child out of their name. I get it. We get very frustrated and we say things we don't mean. But then again, now we have to look back. Hey, why is this coming out of my mouth right now? What does St. Paul says? Let no profane talk come out of your lips. Why is profanity coming out of my lips, especially to God's child, whom I claim to love? Should never be the case. That means there's something deeper. We got to unpack it. We got to look at it. It means something that during our single phase, we didn't look at this box enough. Next one. Don't assume bad intentions. Arguments keep going because you assume that other person's an enemy. You look at the situation like you're in a courthouse, you're on one side of the court, the other person's on the court, you're trying to plead your case. And the other person's the bad person, they need to be guilty. That's the person who has your heart in the moment. How you guys are on the same side facing the issue together. Don't assume bad intentions. Like, for example, I have road rage, okay? I know it may not seem like it, I have road rage. I've confessed about it. Like, if somebody cuts me off on the freeway, I'm going right around, like, immediately. But I've been working on it. And so I tell myself, when someone cuts me off, I immediately put my blinker on like I'm about to cut him off again. But I'm like, wait, what if in his passenger seat it's his wife and she's 9 months pregnant and they need to get to the hospital? Okay, let me like calm down for a sec. Or what if they're like they got an emergency, they need to go to the hospital? Like, okay, let them pass. Practicing not assuming bad intentions from people. Give them the benefit of the doubt. That's what God gives you. God gives you the benefit of the doubt. If he didn't give us the benefit of the doubt, none of us would be saved. He makes excuses to save you. He looks for any reason to save you. Any reason to forgive you. Some of us, we may have we may drive to church and then we come to church and we're too scared to come and we leave or whatever, something like that. God will save you for that. Because he's looking at your heart. Look for excuses to forgive somebody, to not hold them accountable. Don't assume bad intentions. Use I statements instead of you statements. Think about it. You say, you ignored me. How do you think that other person is going to react? I'm sorry, human beings, most of us, we're very defensive. I ignored you. Don't you remember in 2014 when I texted you and you left me on red? That's kind of our reaction. Versus you're talking to someone and say, I felt ignored. Now the other person can't say you're wrong. How can he tell you you're wrong about your feelings and how you feel? Just that little switch can save an argument. The last one that I swear by, and if you read like psychology books about communication and stuff, this is a huge theory that they have pause and follow up. Like I said, if you're unable to solve something in 30 minutes maximum, you're no longer fighting about the issue. You've talked about 5 different issues in that. At that point, you need to realize, hey, we're both not fighting fair right now. We need to step back and look inwards and come and reconvene. Guys, I'm going to talk to the men for a second. Emphasis on the reconvene part. Emphasis on that. If you guys agree to talk about it later, you have to talk about it later. As a guy, I know. It's okay, 30 minutes passed. I'm sure she's fine now. What are we eating for dinner? Right? But for our sisters, the communication, the clarity, the security is required. So follow up. If you agree to take a pause, you follow up after. Sorry, the last one. Don't expect the other person to read your mind. Don't expect the other person to read your mind. Now, there is a healthy level of, just picking up on clues. You should be able to tell when the person you love doesn't seem right. And you should inquire about that. But at the same time, don't expect the other person to read your mind. Like I said, it's counterproductive. You're shooting yourself in the foot. You're on the same team. Why don't you help them help you? Why don't you help them help you? If they're genuinely oblivious, and sometimes, guys, yes, we are genuinely oblivious. Help them help you. Tell them, hey, this is how I felt. And I don't get mad that they didn't know, they didn't recognize. Guys, be honest, be genuine. Did you truly not recognize, or were you just being passive and ignoring it? But don't expect people to read your mind.
Next slide. Learn to lose the argument and win the person. That's your model for confidence. Learn to lose the argument and win the person. You're getting in a conflict with somebody. You're arguing, and then the other person says, fine, you're right, and starts crying. Do you feel good about yourself? What did you accomplish from that? You made the other person feel worse, the person you claim to love. What was the benefit of that? What did you profit out of that? You just hurt the person in the process because you wanted it to be told you won. Congrats. Learn to lose the argument and win the person. Now, during dating, a healthy amount of boundaries need to be established. You're not married. You're not married to the person. Like I said, the dating phase is to confirm of your assessment during the talking stage was correct. Once you confirm it's correct, then engagement and marriage, and we'll talk about that another time. But while you're dating, understand this person is not my husband yet. This person is not my wife yet. Husband and wife benefits are reserved only for marriage. I'm not just talking about like the sex and all that stuff. I'm talking about when St. Paul says, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. Give your life up for them. That's in the context of marriage. He says, husbands, wives, submit to your husbands as to the Lord. That's in the context of marriage. You don't give submission. You don't give your life up until you have the security of marriage. Like if you give somebody husband benefits, if you will, or wife benefits, they have all these benefits, all this access to your heart, all this access to you without the responsibility of having to protect it. That's dangerous. They gave you no confirmation that they will protect you and be responsible for it. There's no vow before God. So don't give everything up to that person. However, we start to practice a little bit of these virtues. We don't give them the full thing, but we practice it, because how else are we going to be ready for marriage? Right? For guys, for example, we need to practice sacrificial love. It may not be the extent of laying your life down for them. What does it mean laying your life down? Giving up everything for them. Your time, your friends, your passions, your desires, everything. That's for marriage. But what you can do right now is you can sacrifice some time on a Saturday to hang out, to go on a date. You can sacrifice playing video games for a little bit. You can sacrifice hanging out with the boys, hanging out with your friends for a little bit. That's called sacrifice. You're practicing the act of laying your life down without giving the full benefit. Remember what I told you guys last week. St. Paul, when he says, give your life up for your wives, that is the cure for the sickness of the man, which is selfishness, which is independence, which is being self-sufficient, which is being focused on self and centered about what you want and what you need, your ambitions, your pride. St. Paul says, lay your life down for them so he can cure guys of our selfishness. And so we practice this, right? For our sisters, St. Paul says, submit to the husbands as to the Lord. Why does St. Paul say this? It's not arbitrary. He says this for it to be a cure for the need of control that we feel. The cure for that is to submit to your husband as to the Lord. In marriage, you trust your husband to show Christ-like leadership, and in return, you'll submit to them. But there's a certainty, you're certain that this person will lead you to Christ. That is the fine print in which you submit to the man. When you're confident and sure, he is going to practice Christ-like leadership and lay his life down for you. Without that security, there is no submission. So like I said, in dating, you practice these things little by little. You don't give him the full thing. You don't give him the full submission. But for example, for a girl, if you want to see how he, if he can lead like Christ, if he can lay his life down for you, when you're having conversations with him, or let's say you have an argument, is he wise with his words? Or is he selfish? Does he seek God after a fight? Does he go to prayer? Or does he call his friends and say, hey, pick me up, let's go out somewhere? Right? Does he make you feel safe? Does he make you feel comfortable? Test how he plans a date. Ask him to plan how much time and attention does he put towards you. Test how he navigates a conflict. That's how you see, is this person going to practice Christ-like leadership? So like I said, in dating, you give parts of your life to the other person, but not your whole life. That's reserved for marriage. Now, for the sake of time, I'm going to go to the final point here. I want to talk about navigating breakups. As we know, in the dating stage, you're trying to confirm if your assessment was true. But sometimes that assessment was not correct. You misjudged, and it doesn't work out. Sometimes you realize you didn't navigate your singleness in the way you should have. You didn't put God first in your singleness. You didn't have a circle of support in your singleness. You didn't have a confessional father in the period of your singleness. For whatever reason, breakups happen. So how do we deal with breakups? How do we navigate through breakups? The first step, you have to take your time to grieve. Because it's true grief. It's a true loss. Anytime somebody passes away, you grieve that person. Dating is in a way kind of more severe. Because you grieve the person even though they're still alive. There's still a grief there. A true grief. You have an emotional response. If you've ever been through a breakup and you see the person, there's an actual emotional response that's elicited. Or when you're alone, there's random nights where you're thinking of the person, you cry, all these things. It's an actual grieving process. Take your time to grieve. Think about it. You planned a life with this person. You planned a future with this person. Now you have to, that future, you realize it's not going to happen. You have to let go of memories. You have to delete the pictures. You have to delete the messages. Now you're in a state of uncertainty. You don't know what to do. You have to grieve that. That's a severe loss. Like I said, God engineered romance to express itself in loyalty. He did not intend for us to experience breakups. And so when we experience that, we have to heal from that. We bring it to Christ. We bring it to God. And we go back to the stage of singleness and really, really dig deep and focus on what went wrong. Don't try too quickly to get back in another relationship. That's a sign you're trying to skip the grieving process. You're saying, it hurts too much, I don't want to deal with it, I need another relationship. That's not fair to you, and it's not fair to the other person. Next, reflect on the role you played. The step that we take is, it was their fault, it was them, they did this, they didn't do this for me. Love does not seek his own. Reflect on the role you played. Including the role you played in your assessment during the talking stage. What went wrong with your assessment? Look at it like that. What went wrong in your singleness? There's this quote from, I don't know who the Christian author was. I was trying to find who it was, but it's a quote. I don't know if we have it. One of Satan's greatest victories in a breakup is convincing a guy or girl it was all the other person's fault and I've already arrived as a future husband or wife. The reality is no one, married or not, has fully arrived at the side of glory. We are all flawed and filled with the Spirit, so we will all always be learning and growing as people and spouses, present or future. Nobody has arrived as the true husband and true wife that Christ has intended. We're working for it. How do I know that? Lay your life down for her as Christ laid his life down for the church. None of us have been able to practice that type of sacrifice. None of us have succeeded. We've fallen short of the glory. Submit to the man as to the Lord. None of us have been able to do that. So don't blame the other person. There's something you have to be held accountable for. Next one is, actually, let's go back a little bit. Forgive the person. So reflect on the role you played and then forgive the person. Again, the approach we take is, it was their fault, they need to apologize. That's not true. Forgiveness is for yourself. A lot of church fathers, they look at forgiveness as erasing a debt. That's why in the Our Father prayer we say, forgive us our debt as we forgive our debtors, those who sinned against us. Forgive the debt. Why do you not want to forgive somebody? It's because you feel like they owe you something. They owe you validation. They owe you an apology. They owe you whatever. That's a debt that you're looking at. Forgive them of that debt. And in that process, you will have a weight lifted off you. What is that weight being lifted off you? That's Christ forgiving your sins. There is this quote from, he's not a saint in our church, but Maximus. He says this: if you bear a grudge against anyone, pray for him and you will stop the passion in its tracks. By prayer, you separate the hurt from the memory of the evil which he did you. And in becoming loving and kind, you completely obliterate passion from the soul. Not forgiving somebody, it's a cancer. It's literally eating away at you. Because Christ is unable to forgive you if you hold on to them. He's unable to. We say it every time we pray. I don't know if y'all ever think about that. We did it today. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. We say it and we don't even think about those who we haven't forgiven. Realize what you're saying. You're saying, Christ, forgive me only if I forgive those who sinned against me. That's a cancer. You can't experience any grace of God if you hold on to this grudge against somebody. One thing I want everybody to kind of understand: although relationships need to be grieved if it fails, or if it ends in a breakup, but I want to say, I know I just said it, but there is no failed relationship. Don't look at relationship as a failure. God used it to teach you something about yourself. Use it as a vehicle of repentance. Use it as a vehicle of transformation. Use it as a way to change your life. So many people have gone through breakups and it made them a better Christian, made them a better son of Christ, made them a better person. Don't look at it as a failure. You get to go back to the single stage. You get to go back to having a relationship with God where it's just you and him, and he can fix all your flaws. It's not the end of the line. You have to trust in God. Romans chapter 8, verse 28, one of my favorite verses. And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. And we know that all things work together for good. It doesn't say everything. It says all things, meaning things, when you put it in context, it will become good. Yes, the breakup was bad, but when you put the breakup in the context of the lessons you learned, God turns it to good. And you become a better person. And you become one step closer to matrimony. If you navigate your breakup correctly, meaning you forgive, meaning you reflect on what you did wrong. I'm going to finish off with a couple points here. In the dating stage, don't involve other people when you get in a conflict. When you get in a conflict, the only person that should know about your conflict is your spiritual father. Maybe a close advisor, if both of you guys trust that advisor. One of the biggest reasons people break up is from bad advice. Bad advice from single people a lot of the times. Not to say that single people can't offer good advice, they sure can. But nobody knows the other person like you. Why are you putting them in an unfair position in which a stranger to that person gives you feedback on the person you should know the best? It's very dangerous. It's disrespectful. You're not showing honor for the person that you were willing to be in a relationship with. You're showing a disrespect. They don't know the other person. Your friends, they don't know him. Your friends, they don't know her. In fact, you should be offended sometimes by some of the advice that you received. Because of what context are they speaking? If it's not your confessional father, if it's not a trusted mentor by both of you guys, be very careful. It's a dangerous game to play, to be getting to let other people know about the issues that you're having in your relationship. Last thing I'm going to say and I heard I was watching a clip, and the person, he takes a different approach to like conflicts. He says rather than like focusing on all the conflicts, because when you do that, it tends to like bring the mood down. It tends to just be very serious all the time. It tends to be very like accusatory. Rather than focusing on that, just focus on trying to have fun with the person. Trying to make memories with the person. Have that be your approach. In the dating stage, you're one step closer to holy matrimony, which we talked about is experiencing the presence of God. So enjoy the time. Yes, these things matter, and you need to look at these things. You need to look at how they deal with conflicts, and you need to pay attention to these things. But also, this is somebody that you said, hey, I am willing to give this person a chance at being with me forever. Let me enjoy this. Let me get to enjoy this time period with the person. We have to be able to look at it like that as well. So share interests, enjoy each other's company, have fun, laugh. These things will actually, like in fact, studies show when you laugh more, when you have fun more, these couples, they stay together longer. It's not to ignore the issues, you address it, but there needs to be a balance of both. And so next week, we'll be talking about marriage again, but in a different context. In a different context. Next week, right? Or no? Yes. Next week we'll be talking about marriage in a different context. That's it for today. Glory be to God forever.